Welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And last weekend I was off and I went to a Goodwill for the first time in a year to do some record diving. And I'm flipping through the albums, and there's a Jim Hall record in there and some MMO records, and then I stumble across this album that I've seen for an incredibly high amount of money called Fraternity of Man, and I turn it over, and on the back I notice that it's Richie Hayward, who is the great drummer from Little Feat, on there. And so as a radio journalist, I went home and I started to investigate the other cats on this album, and the first cat that I investigated was my next guest, and I just sent him an emoji on Facebook Messenger, and he got back to me. And I mean, I just cannot believe how I stumbled into such great luck after 10 years on the air, about to have my fourth book published, and still always finding new waterways and pathways and liquid ways of finding new enlightenment and tributaries of new musical vocabulary. Lawerence Wagner, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thank you, Jake. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor that you found me on the other side of the earth.
It's absolutely divine and should not be underestimated at all. You know, we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I don't expect you to know who this is, but just pay attention to the content, and we'll come back and break it down.
I think we were just coached in paying attention to parts of our mind that we didn't before. And, we were kind of left, you're left on your own when you really take a trip, but, you just have that presence of mind that you went into it to explore yourself. And whatever's in there is going to be good for you if you understand that it could be quite expansive and, scary. And, the mid to late 60s were just a perfect time for that because everybody was so naive. I don't know that as a blanket experience, LSD would be that great a thing for people. But I think there's probably people who would benefit from it if they could ever find it, and they were in a community of people who really could allow their minds to stay expanded and, slowly come back into their life and integrate that experience into their life and not have it tear their life apart. So those seem to be some of those were always the issues, because some people really did take trips that they didn't come back from.
Stash,
I haven't the slightest.
No,
slightest idea who it is.
It's like because I flashed on this thing and I was like, I know that Stash was up in the hate, and I know that you were young, but this is one of the most legendary cats of all time, the lead guitarist from the Sons of Champlin, Terry Haggerty. Okay. Now Haggerty.
I got to tell you. Yeah. Let me get this out. Last night, I'm at a party here in the Philippines, and two guys, one from America and another one from Australia, were having this conversation. And what are we talking about? LSD. I haven't had this conversation in years. And now here, ironically, I had this deep conversation of all our acid trips and how, I'm telling them, at one point I was actually taking 3 tabs of acid a day because that was my normal.
Sure.
When I'm off acid,
sure.
When I was off acid, it felt like a weird high that I didn't like. So, I can't believe that we're starting out with the same conversation I pretty much went to sleep with last night.
And the difference is that you're talking to a rogue journalist who, this is going to be heard, this is going to be publicly available, which is so beautiful. the reason I played you that is because that, essentially like, the Sons of Champlin were tripping on stage while they were playing.
Great band, by the way.
I mean,
Great
dude, the
band,
funkiest band. Terry Haggerty was the first cat to be playing jazz, bebop lines over jazz, over rock chords. I mean, he was a nasty player. But I just, to me, like, in order to make spiritual music, I really feel like you have to lose yourself in some way, shape, or form. I mean, did you have like a liquid vial and just were you dropping liquid, and was it legal when you were growing up? I mean, can you talk about when your brain really opened up due to psychedelics?
I'll go beyond that.
Yep.
We took psychedelics because of the spiritual experience.
Thank you.
We were open to this spiritual experience because of music, which is a spiritual experience. It's not the other way around. Music opened up our wanting to be more spiritual. And the drugs were just a pawn in that game. You following me on this?
Well, I mean, I've written a whole book on the Merry Pranksters. I was wondering if you had come across cats like Kesey, or were you influenced by the On the Road cats? I mean, those guys. Listen, I mean, Rahsaan Roland Kirk was going back to Kesey's house along with Mingus to eat acid. Okay, people were at one time. It was okay. So I'm just trying to get an idea of when you say spirituality, you were tired of the dogma and the vanity of God. You were searching for your own path or the God within you. Can you go a little bit deeper?
No. Not even that. There's when two guys strap on their instruments. When the chemistry happens, if the chemistry happens, it becomes a spiritual. Look, I had the honor of playing with Jimi Hendrix for a while. I don't know if you are aware of this, but I did one session and two sessions, recording sessions, and a live gig with him. What happens when you lock in to other musicians? It's a spiritual experience. Jimmy taught me the freedom of making mistakes, trusting God, trusting whatever you want to call it, the spirit. Having the freedom to make a mistake is a blessing.
Right.
Because as Jimmy said to me, he said, Stash, there are no wrong notes. There are only wrong ways to play them. And it's very true, because when you get caught up in the zone, when you're in that moment, and your finger hits a note that you didn't hear in your head before you played it.
That's it, bro. Yeah, that's it. That's the psychedelicized thing. Yeah, I know.
It's that next note that counts. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to make this note the correct note? And that's where you follow it, because God or whoever or whatever you want to call it had placed your finger there. Now go with it. And usually what you do is whatever you did, you come back and you repeat it. If you repeat it, it means that, I meant to do that. And then nobody knows that it ever was a mistake.
Of course. That's what Miles said. It's only a wrong note if depending on the next note that you play. There are no wrong notes.
Yeah, exactly.
And how did you like with Jimmy, he was so accessible. Talk about how you connected with him.
I was playing harmonica at a club, and he stood up and started playing along with us, and we got into a groove, and the next thing I know, I was at his house.
Let's be clear. I mean, was this a cafe?
By the way, let me throw one other thing at you.
Do it. Yeah.
When I got home that night, I got a phone call from Lowell George, who said, "You need to come over to Richie's house right now." I go, "Why?" He said, I'll let you know when you're there." Lowell George from Little Feat.
Sure, yeah.
So I go over there. He sits me down face to face and plays a song for me. Well, the song he played was Willin'. He said, I wanted you to be the first to hear this, or one of the first to hear this song. So
that is the coolest story. I mean, dude, you're blowing. Wait, hold on. This was before Little Feat had become a band?
Yeah.
It was before. It was before Billy Payne. Yeah, because I mean.
Well, Billy Payne was playing. Okay, Billy Payne was playing with us. Lowell George was playing with us because Elliott got fired for laying on his back after the 27th take of Rumble.
Hold on for a second. You're talking about Fraternity of Man. So Payne and Lowell were in Fraternity.
Yeah,
okay, got it. All right.
They were. Yeah. They came in to help complete our second album. Because Elliott just got a little bit too far out on this STP, which is a 3-day trip. And he fell in love with it for a while, and during his romance, we were trying to record this album, and we couldn't get focused because he was busy laying on the floor playing guitar.
Okay, so let me do. Wait. What, now I've heard of DMT. What did he take for 3 days? That was tripping for 3 days.
STP.
Which stood,
and I really don't remember what it was.
But it was a band. But it was the band's decision to say, "Dude, we want to cook this album. You're not in the right space. Peace out."
No, we were all loaded too. It was Tom Wilson's idea. Our producer.
Okay, so he's like, because I was like, if Elliott taught Zappa everything he knew, then this guy, you would not just want to get rid of this guy. He was obviously out of his mind, like great player. But
Elliott was the best guitar player ever, and yet he could not.
I love it.
He could not be recorded. There is nothing on Elliott that sounds close to Elliott. I saw Michael Bloomfield take off his guitar when Elliott walked in the room. We went to where he was playing, and Michael takes off his guitar and says, "Elliott, come up here. Show them how it can be done. I can't do it like you." This is Michael Bloomfield,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious just to touch on that for a minute. Was he was never captured appropriately on record, but he was a road dog with Zappa. That's how Bloomfield saw him, or was he in another band, or he saw him with Fraternity of Man?
No. They knew each other just from reputation. Elliott actually was in some kind of surf band at one time. I don't remember the name.
Sure. No. I mean, I'm sure the reverence was incredible. I mean, the reverence that, I mean, the idea, it's on the level that, I mean, I know Zappa had to stand up to the studio cats like Tommy Tedesco and those guys. They thought he was kind of a fool, but he knew what he was doing. But, Frank really, really borrowed a lot from Elliott?
I would say so. And then Elliott borrowed a lot from Frank as far as attitude towards putting a band together.
Interesting. So I just want to be clear. You hang with Jimmy. I just want to be clear. You were hanging with Jimmy and playing with Jimmy. God encourages mistakes, because then that's a pathway to new vocabulary in music, and you can grow. And you get home and Lowell George, they come over and he plays Willin' for you.
No, I went over to Richie's house.
Excuse me. Oh my, dude, that is the most tripped out thing.
Well, look, he was over at Lowell's, at Richie's at the time. Anyway, so listen, here's the big catch on it. He plays Willin' for me, and I said to him, "Why country?" And he goes, "Stash, you are the last person on this planet that I expected to ask me that question." Because Don't Bogart That Joint was a country song, and none of us were country guys. But we were musicians,
sure.
So we knew music, and as Elliott taught me, all music gets there. There is no perfect kind of music. You could go into, some classical shit that's like really deep. If you want to Stravinsky out, you could, really get spaced out on that stuff. Or you could go into the rhythm and blues, Otis Redding. There's no finer singer in the world than Otis. I mean, I love the way that he would milk a note. It all gets it. Elliott put on an Elvis Presley tune when Elvis was no longer cool, shall we say?
Yeah.
He puts on, we're both on acid, and he puts on an Elvis tune. Like a fool, there. I don't remember the name of the song.
Yeah.
It's something like that. But
it's out of my bag a little bit.
So
yeah.
damn soulful.
Yeah.
He showed me it was so damn soulful. He says, "This, my friend, is white soul."
Yes.
And
yes.
And
oh man.
And I got to understand it. So I mean, here I am. I'm a 17-year-old kid when I got together with Elliott. And that's a whole nother story because I just wanted to be his roadie.
Right,
I wanted to
right.
sit at the feet of the master. I wanted to be his roadie, and I wound up writing songs with him. And next thing I know, I'm performing them. And that's how Fraternity of Man actually came about.
Well, no. Let me just ask you a question. Were you a cat that was? Because you're an omnivore when it comes to music. I mean, you'll take it all on, and Fraternity of Man is evidence of that. Were you going to the Ash Grove and to the Ice House folk clubs, or were you going to the It Club? I mean, what kind of music were you taking in? I'm talking high school. Like Barrere was going to the It Club to see Ahmad Jamal and Dexter Gordon because he grew up with Leroy Vinegar's son. And instead of, Leroy, the bass player, said, I don't want you guys going out at night. So he bought him a couple of instruments and they were jamming downstairs. But I mean, I'm just curious about where Stash was going.
Well, Stash.
Go ahead.
Stash was going wherever he could sneak in because,
of course, but that was very easy back then.
I was underage.
Yes.
Beto Litos was a big one.
What is that? What was it called?
It's called Sons of Adam.
Wow.
Beto Litos.
How do you spell that?
There was a group called. I can barely say it.
Was it Southern California? L.A.? Was it L.A.?
Yeah, in Hollywood.
Oh my God, Be Olivas! I've never heard of that, man.
Yes, the Yardbirds played there.
Wow.
The Yardbirds actually came and sat in and did a set there. Sons of Adam were a band that played, was an incredibly good band that used to be, I guess, their house band. And
the Sons of Adam?
Sons of Adam.
Oh my God! Wow, that is and there was a house band there. And you were you cooking the groove up? Like, would you bring the harmonica up? Like, can you talk about? I know, I just would love to.
No, I was a kid in awe.
Sure.
Me and my harmonica. I was like a Lee Oscar, where I would go and sit in with anybody.
Dude, Oscar was homeless, and he would sit in with. That's a great analogy. He really would go sit in with everybody.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
he would. And he was great.
I love him, dude. He's the nastiest cat.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. No, I mean, so you were going there in awe. What in to encapsulate it? Like, what were you getting off on the most? The idea that people had their own individual tone, the fact that people were playing original music, or you were just looking to get laid. I mean, what was what were you getting off on the most? Because, I mean, the music at that time, the accessibility to the original masters of all music was completely possible at that time. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, because it's going to be a long one.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to remember, I'm an old guy. I'm now 72 years old.
Yeah, you're going on 50.
And And I was a teenager listening to what was all experimental sounds and music. We didn't have all of these pedals to create this. We didn't have the computers to create that. We didn't have anything other than our imaginations and our fingers. And Elliot said to me, he said, remember, with the guitar, all you got is a chunk of wood and some strings. The rest is up to you. Mm. And that's really what we had. Everyone had a chunk of wood and strings. And some people, there's Jeff Beck, early Jeff Beck, creating what later became guitar sounds. Because what did we have? We had some surf music. We had the Beach Boys doing their experimentation, but most of that came out of the studio, and most of the guitar work came out of Tommy Tedesco. So
you're absolutely right. I just want to jump in for a second. You basically, there was no roadmap because, let's face it, I mean, under the big band era, through bebop and even early surf music, the guitar was still a rhythm instrument. It wasn't a lead instrument. The saxophone was. So you were really coming at that time when electric guitar was becoming for the first time, a lead instrument. So you were making up sounds.
Yeah, exactly. There were a few cats out there, and Elliot was one of them.
Wow.
Who was milking these notes and showing us really what it can do, and then twisting the tones. That was more the English influence and Jeff Beck and
John Mayall. Yeah.
I have nothing but respect for what Jeff Beck has been doing and is still doing all these years.
So you give them I mean, this is really important. They were heavily responsible for tonality in changing the tone.
Yeah.
So because I mean, this is interesting. I always get to the all the cats. Haggerty was a jazzer, but like the only real rockers up there were John Cipollina and Jerry Miller from Moby Grape. And so, like, you're now exposing me, like, sort of, or even earlier, like, when, like, besides Elliot, who were the other forerunners of electric guitar in that, in your estimation at that time, in your region?
In our region?
Yeah, like SoCal, yeah.
Jerry Garcia.
Well,
going north.
That's the Bay. It's the Bay. Yeah, no doubt. And again, that was more like, I mean,
Yeah, but he played with some tones because he was influenced by a lot of different music.
A lot of bluegrass,
and
absolutely.
Music.
Absolutely.
So, and because of that, a lot of that influence happened into rock. It wasn't that we said, oh, you know what? Bluegrass is kind of cool, so let's put bluegrass sound into rock. This wasn't.
I told, dude, I love, no, because you couldn't, that's what when I sent you that the Rusty Young interview, what he told me, he's like, if you wanted a new sound, you had to make it on an instrument. You couldn't put it into a computer. Yeah. You had to make the instrument.
I listened to that Rusty Young interview. It was fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
And my wife was with me. And she stops it and turns to me and says, he sounds like you. That's what you tell people.
Well, exactly. No, it's this milieu of enlightenment, but somehow you all kind of arrived at the same point I just wonder, you were a harp player or were you playing a guitar as well?
I was playing guitar. I would say, okay, wait. At 8 years old, I started playing drums. I love the power. I love the power of drums.
Absolutely.
And I changed over to guitar and picked up harmonica because of Bob Dylan.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely, dude. I mean,
And-
right place, right time, man.
and so I started playing harmonica then. But when I got with Elliot started showing me some Little Walter, and it was like, wow, that's the same instrument.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
Wow.
you know, how can I make this sucker sound? Let me skip ahead to another little story that popped into my head here.
Do it.
They lead quickly as they come.
It's fine.
We were on tour in Chicago, and Elliot says, "Let's go to Pepper's Lounge."
Oh, I love
I
this.
go, "What's Pepper's
Freaking
Lounge?"
love this.
He says, Pepper's Lounge it's on the south side of Chicago, and that's where the real blues guys play. So Elliot and I, the two of us, we go down there, and in the whole neighborhood, we're the only two white guys. and you know, people are looking at us. They says, "Don't worry, they're not going to bother us. They think we're either crazy or dangerous. Either way, we're dangerous to them. So they're not going to bother us."
No. It was a really good vibe down. I mean, they raised those musicians, man. Barry Goldberg and those cats. Yeah.
So we're in Pepper's Lounge, and I think it was Junior Wells. I remember it as Junior Wells was playing harmonica that night. And afterwards, after his set, I'm sitting at the bar. He comes and sits down next to me. And I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He goes, "Sure." I go, why is it when you blow in that instrument and I blow into that instrument, it sounds like two different instruments? And he looks me in the eye and he says, "Stand up." I stand up. He stands up next to me, looks me face to face, and says, "Tap your foot." So like any white boy, I start tapping my toe, and he stomps down on my foot so hard that to this day I still have a broken toe.
Are you kidding
He
me?
stomps down on my foot. No, I swear to God. He looks me in the eye, standing on my toe. I'm in pain now. He says, "Now stomp your foot. Now tap your foot." And so,
Wow.
being the clever, smart ass that I am, I start tapping my heel.
Right.
And he goes, "Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Okay, come on, harder. Now you're getting it." And so he says, "You feel it snapping in your spine?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, now stop moving. You still feel it snapping in your spine?" I thought for a moment. I go, "Yeah." He says, "Now you're ready to blow." And you know, from that day on, I was able to get that deep inside of you sound out of the harp that I thought I had to look like Little Walter to be able to do.
I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure I'm getting his point, is that he puts you in some kind of position of pain and suffering, which is what the blues emanated from.
No, that's not, no, you missed it. The point is...
But you still have a broken toe.
Rhythm.
Yeah.
I still have the broken toe.
Right, which means he hits you when he slammed you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You become the rhythm. You no longer have to think about rhythm. You are the rhythm.
And
it's the same story that Elliot told me of: be the music, don't play the music.
Huh. Wow. Well, and then ultimately, you know, if you can, as a band, get to that space where everybody's operating on the same frequency, then you transcend the music as a group. You know, I mean, that's the
spiritual experience, where no longer you're thinking about what you're playing. You are the music, and that part just comes out.
I love it. Thank you. That took us 30 minutes. We got it. I got another name that voice for you, Stash, and then we'll come back and break it down.
Okay.
Banjo, you know, traditional stuff, but he kind of, I used him as kind of an archetype to, you know, go in, you know, 2 worlds or 3 worlds, and he was really a good example of how to do that. And I said, well, okay. So I was forming my plan, at around that time, and he was just really good. Whenever I'd hear somebody playing, and I really liked it, it was usually Weisberg, So I went after the skill. I said the chops. I said I want to get really good on this, and I want to start exploring this and see what else there is, what can be done. And I would hear all different kinds of people play in different approaches and stuff. No, I don't want to do that. No. So, well, this and then I heard, there was a couple of banjo players that there's a guy named Billy Fair.
Fair, or is that
Fair? I think.
Fair, interesting.
Yeah, Fair.
Was he was an off the grid guy? He was more of an ethnic cat, or what was he doing?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he was, and he played all kinds of kind of classical banjo stuff, and he's a good friend of John Sebastian's. And
again, I don't expect you to know who that is. That was, but I do want to know. That was my first interview with David Lindley. Now he was on the scene with Kaleidoscope. And I was wondering if because Chester Krill, those guys were playing straight no chaser. I mean, can you talk about, especially in Fraternity of Man, or even just in general, how Elliot, yourself, like how you became open to all musics, and then how you incorporated certain jazz aesthetics, if you did, into the music. I mean, and that, again, it comes back to being the music. So you can riff on.
Okay, for your listeners who aren't familiar, and you weren't familiar with Fraternity of Man until just recently, we were a satire band that did satires on all different kinds of music, because me and Elliot loved all different kinds of music. As Elliot pointed out to me, it all gets there. And so we wanted to play all different kinds, and I have this thick sense of humor, and Elliot tapped into that and as an excuse to be able to play any kind of music he wanted to. And if you listen to Fraternity of Man, that's really what we did. It's only because we appreciated and loved all different kinds that we would make fun of it as we did. When Elliot broke up with his girlfriend, Pandora, and he comes to me and he says, "Write a song for Pandora." And I go, "Well, what do you want me to say?" He goes, "Fuck her." And so I went home and I'm thinking, Bee Gees. Okay, this has got to be the Bee Gees. So I do my best Barry Gibb imitation. I go, "I taken enough from her. Who needs it anymore? Last night was the end." And then there's this big crescendo. "Walked out the door, and now I say, fuck her. I don't love her anymore. Fuck her. I don't want her anymore."
Oh my! Unbelievable!
That's all she's good for.
Holy!
Anyway, so that's how some of this music came about. We loved all kinds of music, and so we were influenced by it, and played with it. Of course, we released that song on ABC, and they made us change it to "Forget Her," which ruined the whole tune. But
it's not on. Wait, let me just see. So the one I have, "Sons of the Dead," "Welcome Sons of the Desert."
First album?
Yeah, I will.
That's the first album.
Yes, the first album. But I mean, like, can you say definitively that, were you guys like bathing in rock, like Warren Klein? Man, this cat could play some fucking. I mean, he was an Indian cat. He was into music. I mean, was he a Shankar disciple, or were you just trying to like incorporate the sitar?
No, he actually, there was a ceremony. Both he and Lowell actually. There was a ceremony where he married him as a disciple, Ravi Shankar.
Wait, who married who? This is really important. What is this?
Ravi Shankar. There was a ceremony that Ravi Shankar married a couple of disciples. One of them was Warren Klein, and the other was Lowell George.
Wow.
I guess that's another story you didn't know.
No, this is what This is what I wanted to get at. With there's plenty. Dude, I know nothing, man. This is all. I mean, in order to have a good time, you must know what you don't know. No, here's the thing I want to ask you, is that the legend. When I interviewed Alan Toussaint, he talked about tuning with your heart. You didn't need a meter. And that's where all the individual sound and tonality came from. I mean, were you and I'm talking about you as a musician, not Elliot, or just you coming up. Were you focused generally on the sound that came out of your apparatus and wanting to like that sound as opposed to chops and facility? I mean, what I'm saying today is
sound is 80% of what you play. Your tone, getting the right tone. Look, I'm here in the Philippines, and I can't believe that these players here don't own their own amplifiers.
I love that.
These guys
that is so scrap iron.
They go to a club, and whatever's there, they plug into. Me, I've got to have my amp, my guitar that I choose for that night.
Sure.
I've got to get my tone will dictate what I'm going to play. And there are players out there that they don't go by the tone; they go more by the notes, and yet they play more through their head than they do their heart. So, I'm of the school that learn all of those chords and learn all of the runs and all the. You got to know why you're playing it. So you have to,
right. But then you got to make it your own, though.
Get down to the bone. I'll have to do the bone structure shit that we all hate doing. Playing scales. But when it comes time to playing, I'm like John Coltrane. He says it's just time to blow.
Just blow.
Forget it
just
all.
Blow, baby.
Yeah,
I mean,
just blow.
But you didn't have that luxury. I'm sure when you were playing Upholstered Sewers with the Fraternity of Man that you wound up sometimes having to, you had a crappy amp because you didn't have your own amp. I mean, I guess I would love.
No. We always Fender gave us Bill Showmans. That Fender sponsored us from day one because it was Elliot.
Again, I mean, this guy who's still with us, by the way. I mean, he's still here.
Yeah.
I was
his phone number?
No, I mean, maybe we got a couple more hours to do. But yeah, here's the thing. I mean, the thing is, I want you to talk about Fraternity of Man because there's just not a lot of live bootlegs. To me, I don't like. All I play for my daughters in the car is live early '80s. Not everything, but like to me, there are certain bands like great. You hear what's on the record. I don't want to hear what it's. Did you ever play the same song the same way once? Live. Like if I went to your show and I didn't want to hear the record the way it was played on the record, would you stretch out in a live setting?
Well, it's not stretch out. It's you never feel it the same way twice. That's what makes it interesting.
So you never play the same thing the same way once. You never play.
You're hearing the music through the audience's ears. When you're hearing it through their ears, you're playing it differently. You're hearing what they want to hear.
Dig.
You're playing what they want to hear. That's that spiritual experience again.
Dude, I knew this was good. Stash is this. I mean, dude, I am marinating in spirituality at this point. But what is spirit like in spirit? What does spirit mean to Stash Wagner? I mean, because we talk about mind, body, and spirit, and at least in the West. Again, you have moved somewhere into the Far East, very different.
Living on an island.
Basically, I mean, it's insane.
I live in paradise, living on an island now.
But I mean, it's
What is spirituality?
Well, what for you? For you,
spirituality is to me.
Yeah, I do. I want your definition.
Know what it
yeah,
is
break
to
it
me?
down. Yep.
I don't know.
Right, and that's the way to be, and that's the best. Be vulnerable to it.
The more I learn about it, the less I know. And the older I get, and the more I have behind me, the less I know. I don't know. The people come to me and they go, "Well, man, you're so cool. You got all the answers." I don't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just know what comes out of my mouth at that moment when God or the Spirit pushes those words out of my mouth. I did an interview here a couple of weeks ago, and a podcast. A guy came to my house, and now I'm getting these emails that you changed my life. My mouth moved. That's all. I don't know what I'm not trying to change anything. And I do try to change. I like to shake up the world. I really do. Yeah, I mean, ever since I was a kid, that was my thing. Just get reactions from people. I was the kid falling down the stairs playing dead when my mom walks in the door.
No, dude, me and you were like kindred spirits. I mean, you pushed the envelope. Let's put it that way, all right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's the better question. No, here's the question though. Okay, so I want you to talk. Again, you were surrounded by incredibly mercurial, brilliant cats like Elliot and Lowell, but in order, like you said, everybody has. When you get out of your own way, which basically means removing your ego, and you surrender and you allow the information to come through you, like you said, that's when your lips and your voice take over, and you can't explain it. Okay, I understand that's the God within all of us. And my question is, how did Stash Wagner really learn to consistently get out of your own way so you could be a conduit for new musical information to come through you?
By getting out of my way.
That's a hard thing to do.
For new musical.
Yeah.
That you get quiet. Even the Bible talks about prayer and meditation, but nobody in church is talking about meditation anymore.
Wait, you got to break this down. What do you mean meditation? There's meditation in the Bible?
Finish the story for this. What?
I need you to talk. They talk about meditation in the Bible? I'm not well versed in this stuff. You're saying because it's
yes. There's and I wish I could quote the exact what it is, but
get back to me later on. Yeah.
About through prayer and meditation, and nobody. Okay, what is prayer? Prayer is talking to God or the Spirit or whatever you choose to call this thing that is
source
bigger than us. But meditation is when we listen. Everyone's busy talking, and they forgot God gave us one mouth and two ears. That means listen twice as much as you talk. Right. Otherwise, He would have given us two mouths. So for every minute you take talking and asking for this or whatever, take 2 minutes and listen. And that's when the answers come.
Can you talk about a time on the bandstand when you allowed yourself to really drop into a silence where you were listening and got?
I can go further than that. We did. Tibetan monks.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard them
The
chanting?
best. That's the best.
Well, we had a song where I break into Tibetan chanting in the middle of it.
That's beautiful.
This was part of Fraternity of Man. When I said all kinds of music, I mean all kinds of music.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man.
And
go ahead.
Here's the audience out there listening to me going, and I mean, it's like they're all getting into it because they're probably all on acid also. But
no, because that's you don't actually. If you're just sweating and working up physical energy, it becomes a discarga spiritual rupture in the brain when you start doing that. Dun, 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 like that is the heaviest meditation. I have those Lyricord records, that you were riffing off of. Like those are really heavy records, and you don't necessarily have to be on LSD. But the point is that the chanting. Is it fair to say that you used that as well for to save your own life. I mean, you needed to find peace in your life because a lot of your dearest comrades became roadkill over time.
Good question.
I only say that because you know why? Who's still on this planet? There's three cats. One who's left, and two others that
you, me, and you.
No, me and you we're
else.
timeless. I'm talking, and I'm talking that they found the chanting, the chanting that you were talking about is Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, and Larry Coryell, and Larry died. But the point is that those guys all chant. So to me, like I see you as somebody who, not only did
then let me get into the
break
spiritual part of me again here.
Yep.
The chanting in the Bible was referred to as talking in tongues.
Yes.
That's when people, when you get into the chanting, you're not thinking of words. You're just putting out there, and it allows your spirit to communicate with the higher spirit, and that's where the answers come from. That's when you're in a state of listening. If some people can do it with pure silence, but most of us have to chase those thoughts away when they jump into our heads.
You're damn right.
But those thoughts don't jump into our heads if we're in a chant. Whether it's a Nam Yam Go, whatever those, specific chants are that people do, or the Catholics learned it many, many years ago with their own little chants, their little prayer things. Say Hail Mary 50,000 times or whatever, they do. That's just to get them out of their heads. But they don't teach that that's what it's supposed to do. But that's what it does.
What do they teach?
So all the chanting, what do they teach?
No, what do they say? How do they justify it? Why don't they go with the spirit part?
I've met a couple of monks, present-day monks, that actually understand the depth of the spirituality, but they're not supposed to teach it. Why? I don't know. Talk to the Pope. He won't answer my calls.
I know, but I mean, like, we have to get. That's how we drop into the primordial gut with Stash and Hayward cooking the groove. I mean, you have to go that deep, and the idea that they're trying to sterilize it in some way is bothersome to me. I mean, whatever. I mean, I know everybody can get off in their own way, but it just, to me, that's really interesting coming from obviously somebody who's pretty learned in this stuff, meaning you.
The only way I could really explain it is, who brought you into the Goodwill store?
Spirit. I'm telling you, man. You nailed it, bro.
Who pointed out the Fraternity of Man album? Why are the two of us together right now?
Having a ball.
We're together. We're together right now because something bigger than you and me wanted you and me to be talking. And there's probably at least one person out there, hopefully there's one,
hopefully more than one, yeah.
In our conversation will help evolve.
Exactly, dude. You just described my show. And what an honor it is to connect with you, man, because it was all spirit, man. I mean, it was first time in a year. And I had been hip to the band, but I never bought I've seen this one record, and it's always been too high a price tag. But I can't turn down.
Yeah, how much did you have to pay for it?
$1.50. $1.50.
Wow.
Okay, not the best. It's not in the best physical condition, dude. It cooks. It just cooks, man. I have to. I want to read this story to you and then you can riff on it. This is from my dear friend who I've done multiple interviews with, was Fred Tackett. He said,
good guy. Say hi to him for me.
I will, bro. And I cannot wait to hear what you have to say as it relates to this. He said, Lowell George always wanted a top 10 record, but on his own terms. He had this amazing ability to arrange and get stuff out of you just verbally. Sometimes he would dance, especially with Richie and Kenny Gradney. He would stand in front of the two of them with just them playing and kick his foot out. he'd do this whole little dance in the room where he'd be pointing this way where he wanted Richie to go. He'd get him playing this syncopated beat, and they'd get this groove going that was undeniably funky, and then they'd cut the song. Invariably, they'd go to play the song again, and Richie wouldn't play it anything like he did the way he played before. Lowell would say, "What are you doing?" They would have physical fights over it where Lowell would hit him. I just, please, you know what it is? I just also, for the record, I mean, the spirit of Richie Hayward is clearly with us, and wherever you want to go is fine, but I just would like you to talk about his significance to the lexicon of modern American music.
You want me to talk about Richie or Lowell?
Both of them. I mean, Lowell obviously is a character, but when I saw the reason I bought the album was because I was like, holy shit, Richie's on this album. And so that's what yeah.
Richie is one of those guys that you can get into a fight with. He wanted to throw me out a 12-story window one time in a hotel.
How dare him? Why would he? How dare him?
Well, it was another moment where I was quitting the band, and that meant that he would have to sing if I was quitting the band. Oh, okay. So let me come back to
Go
that
ahead,
for
man.
a second.
Yeah,
Let me talk about Richie wanting to throw me out a 12-story window.
Please.
Elliot gave me the set list for tonight's gig, and I look at it, and it starts with I think it was Cat Squirrel was we were starting off with. Huh. I said, Elliot, I can't do that song yet. He says, yes, you can. You got it. Okay. On Cat Squirrel, I'm playing harmonica, I'm playing guitar, and I'm singing. It's a hard tune to master. And I don't got it yet, you know. And Elliot says, yeah, you do. I said, no. I am not. Elliot, you start off with that song. I'm out of here. I quit. He says, it's there. I said, goodbye. So I quit the band. And so, of course, he goes to Richie and tells him he's going to have to sing tonight. And Richie comes to me to throw me out the window. I'll skip ahead past that argument. John Franzoni, our manager, comes to help solve this problem here, and he says, what's the problem? I said, I'm not going to play cat Squirrel. I can't do it. And he says, if I get Elliot to take it off the set list, you'll play tonight? I go, yeah, that's all I'm asking. I'm not being that unreasonable. I just don't want to make a fool of myself.
Absolutely.
He says, okay. He goes to Elliot, comes back with a new set list. It's not on there. You see that? You'll play tonight? Yeah. Okay. We go on. Curtain opens. Elliot starts with Cat Squirrel.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now I'm going to have to play the damn song because there's 10,000 people out in the audience waiting to hear.
You had to know that was coming. You had to know that was coming. You know. I mean,
no, I didn't. I didn't.
You were like, no, I did. You were so you know, had you shedded on it at all, or you really just weren't comfortable trotting it out yet?
Oh, we practiced it, but in order to get that tone while playing guitar on a harmonica, to get that tone, that's hard shit. Anyway, so we did it. And it actually came out great. And Elliot said...
He said, see?
So I said, I guess you were right. You know, Elliot knew me better than I knew me. He knew what I was capable of. That's one of the things I loved and hated about the man. He pushed me into doing things that I didn't think I could do. And when you're out there, they throw you out of an airplane, you're going to pull the frickin' string. You know, no matter how scared you are, you're going to pull that string and open up the parachute. It just happens. You know, like when my dad taught me to swim, he threw me in the water, said, go ahead, swim. You know?
It was, I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, it's so beautiful to hear, because I mean, I've interviewed mostly my elders over the last 10 years, and the only way you grow in art is if you get pushed out of your comfort zone. And Elliot knew how to do that with you and get it, and then get it to the point where you pulled it off and inspired yourself to keep growing. I mean, unfortunately, we live in a very different time. But I mean, especially with your father's examples is legendary because that's definitely an older generation. And now it's just we got a lot of helicoptering going on. But anyway, go.
You know what? Wait. Do you know? Okay, I teach I donate my time to teaching kids in school music and performing.
Yes.
And one of the things that I teach them is having confidence in doing these things. But one of my examples I do, who wants to see a miracle right now? Who wants to see a miracle? And all the kids raise their hands. They want to see a miracle. And so I call someone up. I say, come here. Okay, look, I want you to walk to the door, touch the door, and walk back to me. And so they walk over to the door, they touch the door, and they come back to me. And I start applauding. And I go, wasn't that great? Wasn't that great? And all these high school kids are looking at me like I'm crazy. I said, what? You don't understand. We just saw a miracle here. Man was not built to walk on two legs. We were not made to walk on two legs like this. But yet we do it. And how did we learn to do it? By falling forward. We kept falling forward. And then holding ourselves up.
Right. That's right.
This is how we learn to walk. This is how we learn to do everything. Give yourself the freedom to fall. Someone will catch you. Or you'll catch yourself. So it's all spiritual shit. When I teach these classes, I get almost every one of my students wind up being on the principals. The honor roll. The honor roll. They have the honor roll. Yes. The honor roll. Afterwards, why? Because I teach them how to learn. I teach them that everything is important. If your parents tell you to throw the garbage out, don't just throw it out. Do a great job at it. If you're not going to do a great job at something, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
It's a
Someone has
great
to clean
advice.
Up after you.
Yeah, it's great advice.
So if you're going to do the homework, do the best homework you can do. Don't just get through it. And that's, it's not just about music. Music is about life. Life is about the Spirit leading us and us all working together and tapping into this planet that we're all a part of. And even with the craziness that's going on now, we're all part of that craziness. But find the peace within yourself, within that craziness, and make it work for you. And it will. I have found that, and here I am 12,000 miles away from you. And yet we're you and me, we're thinking alike.
I just knew that this was vital for me. This is how I continue to stay on the righteous path and to inspire other people through reflecting that light off of somebody else and bringing out the best of them, or even revealing new information that has not really necessarily been brought to the public eye. I mean, I ask you about...
I strongly, excuse me for cutting you off, but I strongly commend you at what you're doing and offer one little bit of advice.
Please.
Don't try anymore because it's happening. Just let it happen.
Totally. I mean, listen, I wanted to ask you about, gratitude is the attitude. I'm grateful to be able to be on this path and still trusting in the path and losing my habitual nature of control and letting it flow, like you just said. But I just, I mean, when did you kind of get the memo about being... when did you become when did you feel gratitude, and how grateful do you feel today?
We could go into an hour of talking about.
Well, this is just set. This is just set one, man. This is just set one.
This is a very, very important aspect. I have one prayer that I say every morning, and it's simply this: Lawerence Wagner, at your service, sir.
Wow.
And then I listen. Now, when I'm at the table with my family, I have I have a 15-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. And we sit there ready to eat. What's our prayer? What's our grace? Thank you. Amen. That's it. That's all that's necessary. Being grateful. You don't have to brag about all that you do have. You don't have to even list it. Just know in your heart that, things are good. Things are, even when they're not good, they're good because they're steering you towards something good. So, I went through this period in my life where I knew I needed gratitude. I had to get down there, and I knew in order to do that, I needed forgiveness. Starting with forgiving myself for all the stupid things that I've done and all the missed opportunities and all that. It's bullshit. There are no missed opportunities. It's just my part of the world. Look, I had opportunity to, if I slept with this producer, I would have been a big star. A lot of people took up on those opportunities. I wasn't one,
Sure. No, I mean, it was about...
I stood fast on my belief.
Sure.
But... So
let me ask you though. How did you know? How did you know that you needed to work on gratitude? What was going on at that time where you were burning?
Everyone dying around me.
Yeah.
Everyone that I called a close friend was no longer around, and I'm wondering what the fuck am I doing? When Lowell died. It's like, why am I alive and him not? He's 20 times the player that I ever was. He should be here, not me. But it's if you look at your life, we all have reasons that we need to go into a forgiveness. I'll tell you how deep I went into forgiveness.
Yeah.
I forgave everyone I know. And then I even went into Adolf Hitler.
Damn.
I got deep enough to go, okay, how can I forgive that guy? And you know what? You and I would not be talking on the phone right now if it wasn't for Adolf Hitler. We wouldn't have computers. We wouldn't have a cell phone.
Right.
We wouldn't have cell phones. Our computers would not have progressed into what they were if it was not for World War II. If it was not for Adolf Hitler, we would not. I'm grateful for the dude,
But I want to go back to something. You're talking about Lowell passing away, and you're like, why did he have to go? He's 10 times the musician. That speaks more to self-respect. Self-respect than gratitude. You don't think you're worth it.
That's an interesting twist.
I mean, you're saying why is it? Because I mean, dude, most cats, as you know.
No, it's not wait, okay, it's not self-respect. Maybe a part of it, we never respect ourselves as much. Look, when Lowell died, I said, you never know who somebody is until they die and then know who they were.
Wow. Jesus, man, you're hammering away right now.
When he died, all of a sudden, the Lowell George picture was complete. I saw the man as great as he was, but he was just another guy.
Yeah.
He was just another one of these great musicians that mentored me, that helped me, that pointed out some good things, came and picked my brain. it all wasn't one way.
Totally, dude. He would. I mean, you learn from every. Of course, dude. He was told. Of course, he would pick your brain. He did that with everybody.
Right. Yeah. Right. But everyone does. Even Frank Zappa, and he would never admit it. And whoever he's around, he's there to pick their. He was there to pick their brains. That's where his genius came out. He saw things in people that they didn't see in themselves.
Absolutely. I just think Elliot saw that. But I mean, I just did fundamentally. So you were at a certain point, did you walk away? Fundamentally, you said a couple interesting things. I mean, I remember I'm pretty close friends with Greg Arico, from the original drummer from Sly Stone. And, he said what got him, he dropped out of music. He walked away from music for a long time. And what got him back into it was the internet, kind of what you were talking about, where all of a sudden a website was set up and all these fans from back in the day were all like, you changed my life. You had this impact on my, and he didn't really, like you talked about, we never respect our true genius for what it's really worth. And he never really understood the impact that he and that band had. But it's really about when I just want to say, to me, so true. The reason we connected is beyond spirit. It's inspiration. You have to stay inspired at all costs, even when it's 110 degrees in the desert and your brain is boiling and there's dysfunction around you. Like you said, you find your peace within that stash. And obviously you've been on this planet a lot longer than me, and you've been walking your own path. But that's why we connected, man. You are my teacher, man.
Well, there's one other thing here too. Dwayne Allman.
Yeah.
I was at a lady's house, and he came over, and he was talking about how he's got everything that he ever dreamed. He's playing with Eric Clapton. He's got gold records. He's everything he ever imagined that he ever wanted. Every goal he has fulfilled. And that weekend, he went off and got killed on his motorcycle.
What does that mean? Because you were just saying the same thing about, I mean,
to me,
yeah, what does that mean?
To me, that's an important lesson. Keep a goal in mind. Always be reaching for something.
Listen to this.
Keep learning.
Woo! Yeah.
Always keep learning. Keep something that, well, I was in the studio one day, and I'm playing this part, and Eric Clapton walks in, introduces himself like he needs to introduce himself, and he says, "Can you show me what you did? What you're doing?" I said, "Sure." Well, I've always got an extra slide in my pocket, and going to the studio with 6 different guitars anyway. So I passed one of the slides to him, and he picked up one of my guitars, and we're sitting, almost knee to knee here. And I said, and he already plays slide, but he learned from a different school. He learned from the Dwayne Allman school. I learned from the Lowell George school. Mm-hmm. So he says, "Show me what you're doing." And I show him, and I'm like correcting him on certain things that he's doing. I won't get into the specifics of it. But at the end, I'm sorry, my mind just wandered to a conversation he and I had.
That's absolutely no. Go ahead.
My point is on this one is that here's this guy people call the guitar god, comes in and asks me, how did I do that? And in those days, everyone shared their knowledge with everyone because, like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, we were experimenting. We were all learning from each other. How do we do that? And Lowell had given me this compressor that I use for slide, and that's a big part of getting that tone. As I'm showing him, I'm realizing that's what makes this guy so great. He's not afraid to ask. He's not afraid to keep learning. Whether he uses it or not, and this is something I do all the time. If I see somebody play something or hear something, can you show me how to do that? Whether I use it or not, it's somewhere in there, and it may come out, and it may not, but it's there, and now it's part of me, and I have grown. And so I keep growing because of it. And the Dwayne Allman story never leaves my mind because it keeps me young. It keeps me dreaming, keeps me creating new things, doing new things.
So I mean, stay humble, always keep learning and setting goals for yourself. Don't assume that everything, even though Dwayne talked about from a commercial point of view, music in the music racket, he accomplished everything, but he probably had a lot more spiritual evolution and contribution to society. So when you believe that you've reached a certain point, that can be, especially when you've reached fame or stardom, that's a dangerous thing. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is we don't know what we don't know.
That's the Socratic. That's the greatest line. You must know. You must know what you don't know.
Well, but you can't. But that keeps us on our path of learning and learning. I'm constantly finding out new things that I didn't know that I didn't know. See, when I told you I teach, and when I teach, I put this big circle on the chalkboard, whiteboard now, and then I cut like a pie piece out of it, and I go, you know what this is? This is what we know. The pie is everything there is, right? Mm. This little slice, that's what we know. Then I cut a bigger slice. And you know what this is? This is what we don't know. But what's all the rest? What is this? That's what we don't know that we don't know. So there is all that to be reaching, to be grabbing for, looking for. You also said one thing when you said, okay, so it's important to stay humble. No, it's not. It's important to be humble.
Thank you. Yes.
And don't think about it. Just be.
Yeah.
But
that's what you talked about.
The word humble out. Just be.
And you would say that is part of your morning routine is listening and letting things come in and just being, and that humbleness you're marinate. Yeah, I dig. No, I mean, this is very. Yeah, I mean, Stash. Listen, I'm gonna have to call Stash. I got to go buy a new calling card, man. I'm out of minutes, dude. I'm out of minutes. Dude, man, this was this is only
call back anytime.
Yo, man, dude, no, we're gonna.
When all this craziness is lifted, please consider coming and visiting me on my island here.
Yeah, man, dude. Honestly, dude, this is only set one. Let's do set two soon.
I'd love it.
Right.
I'd love it.
And much love to you and the family, man. Stay blessed, and I'll have this up later tonight, man. I think a lot of people are, if nothing else, it's going to bring a lot of smiles to people's faces. And as Marty Ballin from the Jefferson Airplane told me, happiness is our divine right. So, amen to that, man.
That's right.
All right? Be cool.
Amen.
All right, man. Be cool.
Amen. You too.
All right, later on.
Okay.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Later. Beautiful cat. Legendary. Lawerence Stash Wagner, part of Fraternity of Man, and good friends with lots of different people, and also a teacher of spirituality and remaining grounded in this life. That's it for the Jake Feinberg Show. Have a great week. See you later.